Hello everyone, welcome to our video today where I'm actually joined with Gideon Shalwick. So Gideon has become a good friend of mine over the last few years. Very interesting guy. We're going to get into talking about personal branding, building businesses, life, and God knows what else we'll manage to touch base on. He's formed and founded some pretty cool technology companies. He's done some interesting things in his life. And I think it will be incredibly relevant for, I certainly think, any of my audience, because we're going to talk about actually getting your message out there, finding your voice, using it, overcoming fears, why personal branding and branding itself is important, why video is such an important component to that. And certainly for me, we help advisors, people with advice in their DNA, people who are looking to provide a benefit to others. And honestly, for you, you're all in relationship professions. So everything we're going to be speaking about today will be incredibly relevant. So he's originally comes from South Africa. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
And did you live in New Zealand as well?
Unfortunately. Yes, I did.
Okay, to the Kiwis out there, yes. Love New Zealand. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And also obviously lived in Australia as well. So I believed you did some study for a technical profession along the way there, right?
I did. I studied electronic engineering. Not many people know this because I don't really advertise much. And the reason is because I never really felt like an engineer. I studied for 4 years and it was an absolute 4 years of hell. But it was good for my mind in other ways. So, yeah.
And in more recent times, in fact, I'm gonna go back to how I first came across Gideon, because he's been a YouTuber. Before YouTuber was as big a thing, or bigger word even. So I remember when I was in my professional services firm and I was really trying to figure out, how to make video. And I'd progressed beyond, because YouTube was a massive step forward beyond sending VHS cassettes to our clients, which is something we did.
That goes way back.
Yeah, it does go way back. And so trying to figure out how to make nice videos online. And at the time, there was one person that kept standing out and really resonated with, and that was Gideon, talking about YouTube and building a YouTube channel and making videos. And so I had the pleasure of coming across him on YouTube, and then I was at some events, and over the course of years, I kind of gradually got to know Gideon. So that's a bit of the background. Now, since then, he's gone on to found two companies. So one is V-Roll, which is an automatic kind of video ad creation software tool. Very, very cool. He's since moved on from that, and I think we're going to get into the reasons, why. And the second one is Splashio. So Splashio.com. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. It's very, very cool. I use it for all of my LinkedIn and Facebook videos. There's nothing out there that can even come close to helping you drive engagement with your videos. So check out Splashio.com/Baz. And you can also connect to Gideon on LinkedIn if you want to have a chat or say g'day, or follow some of his own videos, which are also created using Splashio.
That's it. They're all Splashioed now.
Okay, so that was the intro out of the way. So welcome, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Good to be here.
So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where we should start with this. Let's kind of go with the obvious question first, right? So what does Splashio do? Well, Splashio allows you to caption and create really nice looking videos. So it's simple. You upload it and it comes back and it's all finished and polished. And essentially the way I see it is it's allowing people who are entrepreneurs but in the knowledge and advice spaces, so which is the audience that I am fascinated and work with. And it enables them to create content which is at a much higher level, but also reach people. So why make that?
Long story, actually, but I'll give you the short version. I think something that's really been important for me for as long as I can remember has been to be able to connect with people and to have some sort of an impact. If I look back at everything I've done, especially business-wise, it's been along those lines as well, where I really had this desire to connect with people, but also to make some sort of an impact. And there are deeper reasons behind that as well. I'm not sure how deep we'll get into it in this conversation.
Why draw a line in the sand?
Okay, we'll warm you guys up a little bit first. But anyway, so Splashshare was born out of a bit of frustration, because, but also a need, right? So I was creating these videos, and a deep desire for me was to create videos that would really engage with an audience, right? That really videos that people would watch and that they would really connect with and watch the whole thing, not just the first 5 seconds. And in the past, the way I would do it would be, other than a great message, would be to add things like special, video editing little tricks. So things like chopping the video up and adding B-rolls, for example, or zooming in, zooming out, the jump cuts, I think some people call it that. Adding sound effects, adding special effects, all sort of stuff. If you look at those, when people do that for videos, the only real reason for doing it is to help increase engagement. Yep. That's really the only reason.
Keep people watching it.
Keep people watching it, and that's what you want, right? I mean, the thing is, for the sort of videos we're talking about, we're not talking about building like a Hollywood movie kind of production. We're talking about creating a message that really resonates with your viewer. And so using all these sort of editing tricks it's been designed to kind of, get people to watch longer and engage them longer. And so to be able to do that, though, is if you've done any sort of video editing or video production in the past, is an absolute pain in the neck, right? You've felt the pain. I know your team's felt the pain.
Absolutely.
If you've done it yourself, you know what that's like. It's very painful. It's very slow. I've surveyed tens of thousands of people over the last few years, and the number one thing that always comes back in terms of the frustration associated with video production or video marketing is video editing, because it takes so long and it's a pain in the backside. So a few months ago, a friend of mine asked me, hey, do you know how to caption videos? Because it's real painful to do. And he runs an agency, and he said, can you tell me how to do it in an easy way? And I said, okay, I'll take a look. And the more I looked into it, I was going, first of all, there are no good solutions out there. I mean, there's some good automated solutions and good software out there, but the problem is you still got to go and do it, and you still got to spend the time and effort,
and you still have to correct it, and to and froing, and
you lose some hair in the process. So I thought there's got to be an easier way. So actually, we didn't find an easier way, but we decided to make it easier for other people. And so what we've done is we built a team of real people to actually do the work, people who don't mind doing it, because there was actually a small subset of people in my surveys who loved video editing, and they said, why would you ever want to take video editing away? So we found people like that in our business who loves the video editing side of things, built a team around that, and now we do it for other people. So we take that pain away and give it to other people who love doing it. So now, see, here's the thing that really hit me when I started doing it. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it's nice for, the silent play sort of videos so people can actually read your videos. But one thing that it does that I didn't expect, I didn't see it coming, is that it pretty much removes the need for editing your videos completely.
Absolutely does.
And this was such a big revelation to me, because with captions, as soon as you add captions to the videos, it automatically makes them more engaging, because people can't help themselves but read the captions. Like, even if they're playing the video with sound on, I don't know about you, but and you, Baz, like, I can't help myself. But even if there's sound on and there's captions, I still read the captions. Anyway.
I'm going to make an admission. Here. Right? I'm going to jump in, but before I do that, I'm just going to say we're actually going in reverse order this time around with our interview. So I started with a really obvious thing rather than building up to it. What I want to break down from this is the journey to actually using your voice online, why we need to do it, why you need to do it, what the fears are that come behind that. So we're starting with the end of the journey, and then we're going to kind of dig in. I felt like doing it slightly differently. Now, my admission's this. I was watching a Netflix film, and it had, I think, some Swedish language in there, but the captions didn't come up. And so I turned on captions, And that was about 3 months ago. And so now whenever I watch Netflix, I just leave the captions on. Everyone else in my family thinks I'm nuts. So, but I like it because I never miss any context.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't quite catch that. No, the words are right there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It helps it sink in a bit better as well. And
It does.
That's another thing. So
It does. It really does.
when you think about if you want to be like an influencer, for example, or if you want to be some sort of an evangelist for your brand or for your company or for your own products and services, it's critical that people don't just see your message in the feed. It's even more important for them to actually consume your message and as much of it as possible. So it's not just about, the engagement thing is the beginning of it, right? But then it's about getting people to actually consume the message and for that message to go into their heads and stick in there somehow. So when you've got captions moving on the screen, people actually reading it, not only are they watching it and hearing it, but they're actually reading it too. So it goes into their minds and gets settled there a lot better than without it. So, with you watching the movie on Netflix, just by reading the captions, it allows you to actually absorb the information a lot better.
It's absolutely true. And this is what I was saying about when I use it for my own content on LinkedIn or Facebook. The engagement is literally twice as good as if I don't. And in some ways, that's just using the measures that are least important. I think my engagement's probably way better than double when it comes to people taking action.
Right.
People actually messaging me and saying, "Hey, watched your video. It's really cool. It struck me. I need to do something with my firm. Can we make a time with yourself and the team to talk through my business?" And I do think a big part of that is because when you're engaged with it, you're getting the message in text. And there's lots of studies to actually show that when you get the combination, your recall
and your recall goes right up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask the question again. So why create something to help people make videos? So we're gonna go a bit deeper now, right? So the first answer was because people need it and there's a real problem and this solves the problem, right?
Right.
And there's no doubt about that. But I also know you're a smart guy and you would have seen a million problems in the world that you could have figured out cool stuff to fix. So why fix this? What is it about helping people to create video and make it easy to do so that kind of fits with who you are and your purpose in life? And then I kind of want to talk about the journey to get to there, because both of us have been for probably about the same period of time on this course of building personal public brands and loving it, hating it, finding that, learning the same lessons, overcoming fears. And so I kind of want to start delving into that stuff because I think that's really relevant. Because, Gideon's created an important product, but it comes from a journey which is really, really significant. And I think there's a lot of lessons that are really worthwhile sharing. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're watching this video, then you are in a people-based business. And if you're in a people-based business, then your ability to scale your trustability is going to come down to whether you're using the tools at your disposal. And it's not just whether you're using the tools at your disposal, it's whether you are actually being you and you're being resonant. And so Splashio is something that just makes it so much easier to remove the obstacle, which is technology. But what it doesn't remove is the obstacle, which is am I going to make video? I don't need to do that. And I'll just say to you all, if you're not at least making video to a degree, then your ability to be referable, for your clients to feel like you are a modern professional business person is being diminished significantly. So, the days of me talking about video in business being a cutting edge thing, that's like well and truly gone.
Yeah.
So we're going to delve into that. So why? Why make this thing? Why focus on this problem?
Yeah. Well, I think if I look back at any of the businesses or products or solutions that I've ever created, it's quite often, probably 100% of the time, been to solve a problem that I had myself or an issue that I had myself. And when you look at Splashio and what it does, for me, obviously, yes, it gets rid of the video editing thing, right? But that's just like a barrier. But for me, it was about being able to get my voice out there to people all over the world. And because I have a feeling or a sense inside of me that there's something that I need to share with the world. And when there's an obstacle in the way, like the video editing or putting the captions in place or building a team or whatever it is, that prevents me from doing that. It prevents me from getting my message out there. And I think there's a lot of us. I mean, you watching this right now, I know you're watching this for a reason, and it's quite likely that there's something inside of you that needs to come out, that you probably, maybe you don't even know how to verbalize it right now or yet. But there's something, you have a feeling, there's a sense inside of you, like deep inside of you, that there's something that's got to come out. And I think video has been a very, very amazing tool for me to allow me to do that, to express whatever that is coming out from the inside. And it doesn't mean that it's always clear. Like, I think it's really a journey. Like, you start off trying to express yourself in a way, and you might not be able to get it right. You might not be able to verbalize properly what it is that you want to say. But I think when you use a tool like video, and especially if you do it in a public forum like this, it kind of forces you to start pulling that stuff out and get it out there. And you don't want to have things in the way to prevent you from doing that. So I think Splasher is like almost like a symbol to me, that it allows me to remove all those barriers, and allows me to get that message out there, whatever it is that I want to teach. And so in the same way for you, you might have something there, whether it's your message for your business or for your company, or maybe it's a message that you have personally that you want to share with the world. You don't want to be restricted by all sorts of things. You want to express it, and then get it out there to as many people as possible. And so Splasher that's why I've set it up. That's why I've set it up. I want to remove those barriers and make it as easy and as stress-free and friction-free as possible for you to be able to do that. It's really interesting. And,
I'm going to say, for anyone that's kind of sitting there thinking, is it true? Is it true that people have got something they want to express and want to let out? I've done more than 30,000 formal client meetings now over the course of the last 23 years. And for nearly the last 10 years, that's been with owners of other advice and service firms. And I always ask this question, and that is, imagine we're sitting together. By the way, this comes from Dan Sullivan, so I always give attribution to anyone who's done great work before me. Imagine we're sitting together here in 3 years' time, and you're looking back. What are the things that you would like to have seen happen personally and professionally to feel like it's been a great 3 years? And then I really dig deep into what those things are. And, I'm meeting with owners of accounting firms, financial planning, advisory, legal firms, primarily professional services firms are where we operate. And I'm digging into this. And so often it's one of these two things. I want to feel like I'm actually expressing myself. I've got a client who talks about when he was 16, he was in a rock band, and he was just expressing himself, and now he's kind of put this cocoon and box around himself and is finding it challenging to come back out. And we're launching a video series, which is really cool, and it's nothing around the straight-laced professional stuff. It's far more impactful. And as he said, I feel like I'm connecting back to that 16-year-old. So the two things that I get universally from speaking to business owners are that expression, finding a voice, being heard, sharing what I have to share with the world, or it's the getting my mojo back. I've lost this connection to what it is that I'm doing. And universally, and this is one of the reasons why I've been saying for thousands and thousands of times to as many people who would listen, use video in your business. Because it's not just the fact that if you're in a relationship firm, then you are the brand. It's not just for that. It's not just the fact that it can amplify you, grow your organic client referral rate, create new client opportunities. It's not just that. It's that because when you have to dig in here and express yourself and you do it on video, it helps you find yourself and it helps you find your own voice. And I don't know of any other way possible to do that. And that's some of the things I want to dig into today, of the journey that, Gideon, and certainly I've been on over the last, probably 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, really, if I could say it in the simplest way for me, and I'm not sure if this will resonate with, because it might not be the same sort of journey, but for me, it's really been a journey in search of significance, which is in a way hard to admit. Like, my ego doesn't want to say that, but it's a journey of like, when you find your voice, like, you can ask the question, well, why do you want to find your voice? Why do you want to express it? Why do you want potentially thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people hear your voice? What's the deal with that? Is it just because you're a nice person? Is that what it is? Or is there something that's actually deeper, that's more to do with you, like yourself? And it in a way, it's a tough one to acknowledge, because it means that you've got to acknowledge you've got an ego, right? Because you think of what's the most. Do you know the most popular radio station in the world?
No idea.
My old professor, Pete Beckman, during my studies, my engineering studies, he told us this once, and he said it's YFM, so WIIFM. You haven't heard of this? Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll all know the station. So the WIIFM stands for What's in It for Me.
I had a feeling I was being set up then. Yeah.
So and it's true. However much you want to talk it away or not admit it, we are all in a way kind of selfish beings. We that can be in a negative sense, but it can also be in a positive sense. But for me, it's been that search of significance. If you think about, if you look back at everything I've done, it's kind of been, that way to express myself, to show, hey, here I've done something. Here's something significant of value for you to appreciate and admire in a way. And so I think there's a lot of us who have that inside of us. Where that comes from, where that originates from, that desire, that's a whole different question. We had a chat about this before. Is it programmed into us from birth, or is it something that gets conditioned into us by our upbringing and our parents and our peers and our brothers and sisters? Where does it come from? In a way, who cares? I think the fact is that it's there. It's there, and I think the sooner you can acknowledge it for what it is, the easier it's going to be for you to work with that and get in alignment with that, and realize it for what it is, and make the best of it.
Yeah, so video is a really interesting tool for me, and I'm not sure people quite get how much I would weigh the significant impact. So if I were to say, all right, you're a professional advisor, you need to be using video internally with your clients, you need to be using it in combination with email, you need to be using it on your website to tell your story, and you need to be using it in social media, I would say, as well. Because just to be a modern professional, how can you actually leverage a human brand without using the tool that allows you to do that in the most significant and efficient and effective way possible? Like, everything else doesn't even come close. But that, I would say, in the scheme of things, as to the relative impact that actually being an advice professional, someone who has the focus of making other people's lives better because of their direct engagement with them. If you have that, then I would say that 70% of the benefit actually comes from what making video does for you as a person, and therefore as an advisor.
Right.
And so one of the things I kind of want to dig in today is the fact that, you and I there was no schools for jumping on camera and learning how to be authentically vulnerable. In fact, you were one of the first people to actually start something about, using YouTube in itself as a tool. But I remember, going back like so long ago now, and making some of my first videos, right? And this is before we could host them online. And I remember trying to be a newsreader, and I remember trying to, everything was about how will someone perceive me. I'd do like 50 takes, you know, my body language would be scripted. And I look at those videos now and I just think, oh, they're so terrible. They're so bad. But I did seem like a newsreader.
Yeah.
Right? And we grew up with this generation of newsreaders, right? At least in our age bracket, right?
It's interesting you say that, yeah.
So they don't, I mean, actors on TV, right? Do they screw up? Do they stuff their lines up?
Probably 90% of the time.
Right?
But
do you get to see that?
No.
Do the newsreaders, stuff up? I mean,
I think they're a bit more polished, but they practice a lot. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, I mean, if you've ever been into a newsroom to be interviewed, and I have, like plenty of times, they're just looking at a giant teleprompter screen.
Yeah, they don't have to come up with anything they have to say. They read it all.
Right, they're just giant teleprompter screen, and it was really interesting because I remember one time I was being interviewed and I answered the question and he still didn't pick up the cue, and then he asked me the question, which was, and so when's your event coming up? Because we were running a first ever event for professional services firms and social media, which goes back a long time ago now. But the event had already happened. Okay. And so he didn't listen to what I'd said, but read the thing out of the teleprompter. It was really interesting because as soon as it cut, he's like yelling at the people in the studio booth. Right. But that's kind of how we grew up. And so when you stick, and I can't tell you how many people I've helped jump in and make a video for the first time. Like,
it does something to you. It changes you. It's if you think about even something as simple as a mirror, like when did we start looking at mirrors as human beings and seeing ourselves and seeing a mirror image of ourselves? I mean, that's really
pretty
what
young.
Sorry?
Pretty young.
Well, right, I'm talking about humanity now.
Yeah, right. Well, they've been doing that for a long time.
I guess we might have always seen ourselves in a lake or something like that, but mirrors hasn't been around for that long. And when you think about video, that it really is a reflection of you. But it's actually different. It's a more true reflection of you than a mirror, because a mirror is an actual reflection. A video is a more like a replica of you, like it's a recording of you. So you think about it when you look at yourself in the mirror, it's flicked, it's flipped. But when you look at yourself at a video, it's not flipped. It's it's closer to the true you than the mirror image, believe it or not. And that's actually really interesting, because when most people see or hear themselves on video for the first time, they freak out and go, who's that ugly person? I don't sound like that. And then their friend might be sitting right next to them and they go, no, actually you do look like that and you do sound like that. That's it. And so the trouble is that, we don't even have a clear picture in our heads of what we look like and sound like, because of the way we've been conditioned with looking at mirrors. We see a mirror image of ourselves. So in our heads, when we grow up, we actually have a mirror image of what we look like, which is not the true image. And so when you watch video for the first time, that challenges your inner image of yourself, and it means you've got to do some work. It's actually some personal development work.
It's really interesting, and you can test this out if you want to. Very simply, most basic picture editing tools will allow you to flip or reverse the picture. So you can even Google people's photos, right? And then put them into a program, and there's some online tools for this. Just Google it if you want to find something, and reverse the image. And they look completely different.
Yeah.
So the way our brains function, it's just a mirror image, but they look completely different.
Also, what you can do is, if you're a little bit more fancy with your editing skills, is you can cut your face in half, just on the image, not for real.
Yeah. Please don't try that with her.
But then create a duplicate of just the one side, or and then flick that around. So you have two left-hand sides to make up your face. That's one thing you do, and then you do two right-hand sides of your face.
Wow.
And
I suppose that I've not tried that.
It's freaky. Like because
did you definitely get my right's better? Did that happen?
No. I think there's some theories going around. One of them is that one of your side is more feminine than the other side, so you might get a more feminine looking face. and a more masculine looking face when you do
that's
that.
interesting.
But it's an interesting exercise because it makes you realize that, hey, your face is not actually
Symmetrical. Yeah.
perfectly symmetrical, unless perhaps you're a supermodel. Then it, because symmetry is often assigned to beauty.
That's not me.
But right, most of us are not lucky like that. So and that's why your brain sort of rejects it the first time you see yourself on video or hear yourself, because it's, you've got a different image. And it's the same thing with the sound, actually, because it's when you hear yourself most often, it's where you've got sound obviously going out of your mouth and then through the air and into your eardrum, but then there's also sound going through your bones and your blood and your head into your eardrum. So you've got a mixed sound of what you actually sound like to yourself. But when you're listening to yourself, like on video, the sound's coming from a speaker outside of you, and so
it does sound different.
And it sounds different to you because you're not used to that.
And that's cognitive dissonance. So it's a big obstacle. Like you first do your video, and then you're looking at it, and you're in a position to be worried about what people might think, because you're programmed with this idea of video means it's going out to all of these people, and you've got to be perfect. And what if they're not interested? And so it's actually putting a spotlight onto all of your fears and idiosyncrasies and behavioral patterns. And this is why it's so invaluable. If you truly want to be of greater service to others, the best way to do that is by finding the best version of you, right? And so video does that. But that's one of the first major hurdles. It'll be uncomfortable because you're expecting one thing and you get another.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a couple of shortcuts. This one is not a shortcut. Basically, where I'll give you the long cut first, and I'll give you the shortcut. The long cut, if you don't like seeing yourself on video or hearing yourself on video, is to basically record yourself on a video. You don't have to send it to anybody. It's just for you. And what you do is you watch and listen to that video over and over. And maybe you do it with multiple videos too. So what happens is you reshape or recondition that image and sound of you inside your head. And you actually fix it. You fix it to become more of a true picture and sound of what you really look like and what you really sound like. And then it sounds kind of egocentric or narcissistic, but you're not doing it for that reason. You're doing it to recondition yourself, right?
It's true. It absolutely.
And then after a while you go, hey, actually, I'm looking pretty good. I'm sounding pretty good now. And you start accepting it just like you accept other people when you see them and you hear them. So you start accepting yourself, which is, I think acceptance is a huge thing. And that's like a little step that you can take towards helping you towards like the bigger journey of just accepting yourself, which is a big theme for humanity as well. So that's the long cut. But a shortcut is, and I learned this from Dennis Yu. So thanks, Dennis, for this tip. He told me once, he said, Gideon, if you're not sharing your message with others and with the world, you're actually being selfish.
Yeah.
You're being selfish. I think it's true. Like you're being selfish. If there's something that you can help, if there's someone really struggling with something, and you might be the only person who could help them, and you don't help them, what does that mean? Does that make you happy? And I think if you can then use that to overcome your own view of yourself and your own criticism of yourself, and realize that it's not about you actually. It is about expressing you, but to be able to help someone else. And I think that's a really nice shortcut, because then you forget about yourself.
I think that is really, really, really insightful. Before I was doing a keynote, I had someone come up and ask me and say, hey, look, I want to do a tweet. You obviously put yourself out online a lot. What's your number one best secret to doing that? And it just kind of came out. And I said, it's only when you stop worrying about yourself that you're truly free to be of greater service to others. So I think that's a different way of saying the same thing. It is selfish to hold yourself back, to not use your best version of you to influence others. And the other thing is, the flip side to that is, you won't find what that is until you actually start using your voice. Yeah. And so it's not I'm going to just automatically create a video and it's going to be awesome. It's more, that's you starting the journey of unlocking yourself. And that's been the thing for me. Every video I do, every time I'm sitting in front of a camera, even like we're doing now, it's kind of forcing me to self-reflect. You know, how am I feeling? What are the fears? And the biggest, if I could just go back in time and say to myself, look, forget everything else, just be you. Don't overthink things. Don't overcomplicate it. Like, I used to spend weeks scripting a video that I'd do 20 takes of, and now I could do 50 videos in a day and not think about them. And if I could just go back in time, it would be, stop worrying about yourself. Just do it because you've got something to share, and don't worry about what the consequences are. It doesn't matter what someone else thinks. The worst video I've ever made, which by the way is probably pretty terrible, didn't destroy my life.
This is interesting. You'll find this probably. I'm not sure if you had this as well. But my most popular video on my YouTube channel has had over 1 million views. I don't know. I haven't checked for a while, but it's last time I checked, it was about a year ago. Over 1 million views. Was a video that I was never going to publish, because when I recorded it and I watched it back, I thought, there's no way that anybody would find this useful. You know, this is rubbish or whatever. You know, whatever I told myself, and I was this close from not publishing it, and I thought, oh, what the heck. Just put it out there. Maybe there's one person who would find it useful. This thing just went crazy, and everybody, you know, like when I went walking in the streets in San Diego once, and I mean, this often happens when I go to the States, and then people would recognize me on the street. Hey, you're that guy from that particular video, you know, and the opposite side of the world. And so I think we can be very self-critical sometimes. We don't realize sometimes the gift that we have to share, and the value that we can offer people, and because of this perception we might have ourselves, like we might think that we're not good enough, or we might think that we're not perfect. So only perfect people and people who reach a certain level are able to teach or to get on video, and it's not true at all. I mean, like that video of mine is a great example. Where
I'm going to jump in there because the synchronicity is
Go for it.
is pretty extreme, because Gideon wouldn't be sitting here with me now if it wasn't for that video, because it was that video.
That's it.
Literally when it was published, and when I looked at it, it had like 50 views.
Right.
So you must have
right
just published it.
Yeah.
And I happened to just be searching for that one particular thing. It was about lighting a white backdrop.
Right.
And the fact it was just you in your garage being like kind of lifting the lid is actually what drew me to it. I will probably watch that video like 30 times. So, and it's interesting because it's that video that really gave me a sense of Gideon's a really cool bloke. And so when I saw you at an event, I was like, nah, man, I gotta go and speak to this guy, right? Yeah. So it all kind of started with that. And I would say the same experience for me. The videos that I've created where I've not been thinking about it, where I'm like, oh, this is probably crap, have been the ones that have had the most impact. And so if only I could just, give myself this and say, you know what, speak more from here. Don't worry about what other people think. Share things that you actually have to say. And that's been the journey of making many thousands of videos for me. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be that difficult. And so if you're someone who's already using video, then I'd say to you this: use a bit more of this, a little bit less of this. Don't script it. And I did one of these videos the other day. Don't make it for other people. Make it because it's something you have to say. And certainly don't spend a lot of time doing it. Like, I think the most time should just be, you come up with an idea, if you use Evernote, chuck it in Evernote. I just Slack myself now. So I just Slack myself, and then I could go back through Slack. And, if I want to shoot a video, there's like 50 messages that I've sent myself. And honestly, don't think any more about it than that. And speak from your heart without worrying about what someone else has got to say. So before you get to that, we might continue with some of the other things that we've learnt through building personal brands. So the reason I started out was because my ego was saying, build a more successful, better business. Right? Put these videos out. You need to look polished and professional and perfect. And my first videos, because I had a financial services firm at the time, we're talking about boring things like retirement planning and, whatever. And look, that was okay. The clients said they appreciated them. But it was interesting. It wasn't until I switched that around and I started talking about the key emotional hang-ups that clients had. And I was doing videos about, I get this all of the time. And then my clients started sharing those videos and I started getting more referrals. And then an interesting one was when, you deal with wealthy people, right? And you help them become wealthy or you help them become wealthier. What's the first thing that someone who self-funded retiree would do in the year they retire, do you think? So they've been working all this time, built it up, they retire.
Get bored, I suppose.
It's the first thing. Just pretty much all of them do. They travel.
Travel, all right, okay.
So maybe they've been doing some travel, but it'll be the big trip.
Yeah, true.
Right? It'll be the big trip.
Yeah.
So why am I making this content that's so technical and stiff and professional? Because I think I've got to tell someone what I do is good for them. Instead of actually just speaking about the real issues and from here. And also what's of interest to them. And so I think this one goes along the value line that you were talking, because Gideon put a video out yesterday about, if you want to really do something for someone in your content, create value. I think there's two things. One is value and the other is resonance. Now, I think resonance in itself is value, but it's not that you learned something. It's not that they told you something that was of value. It was that you connected with it. Just simply a human connection because they were being authentically vulnerable. And in your lighting videos, as simple as it was, that's exactly what you were doing. So sure, you gave me value, but I think the biggest impact was the connection I got with Gideon, the real person.
Yeah.
And so that would be my key message. You can shoot for value, sure, but be yourself in it. Be vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that video was like a 3-minute long video, so I couldn't really go into too much detail there, which maybe we can.
I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. So I think the value thing, I think the biggest value you can provide is when you have this resonance. But what kind of resonance? So the resonance for me here is the resonance between you, what your imprint is, I guess, the message that you want to share, the thing that you want to help people with, like that. There's your deepest desire, so to speak, for helping people. When there's resonance between that and what your audience actually wants, that's where value gets created. When you connect those two worlds with your message, that's where the value gets created. And I think
that's a really interesting way of looking at it. I like that. That's cool.
Right. And because that's where the resonance comes from. Because when you've got a message, when there's something that you're sharing, and there's someone else on the other end who's been waiting to hear that maybe all their lives, and there's a connection, there's resonance. Like when you get these pitchforks and you use it for tuning stuff, that's resonance. When you hear beautiful music, there's resonance that happens there. There's you're vibrating together, so to speak, and you create music. You really create something beautiful when you get that connection with someone. You get that resonance with them, and I think that's where the value gets created. And when you think about like extending it out now to to think more earthly, I guess, like in terms of products and services. How do you look at your products and services from that resonant sort of perspective? Like if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the business owner, and you're the core, you're the beginning of the business, so to speak, those first few products and services that you create, I think if they're like an extension of what's inside of you, and it happens to resonate with other people, it really solves a real problem for them. That's where you get that resonance. So then when you get that resonance, that's when people really connect. And when they really connect with you, then they're going to want to do business with you or engage with you. And so it's all these little puzzle pieces. Like when you get them all right, it's like, okay, that's how it all works.
Yeah, this is really important, I think, for our audience here, because again, we really focus on people with advice in their DNA. So for you guys, you are the product, right? There's no way to get away from that. It's a human interaction. And I have this passionate belief that advisors have got to get away from the compliance and legislation and product, and because a lot of them, if you take financial advisors, has been about the investments and insurance and whatever. Got to get away from that, because that's being commoditized to the nth degree. And in the past, and this is my view, in the past it's been technology companies where the big profitability is, right? I actually think to a degree there's a reason why we're not seeing as much disruption in that space, because technology kind of consumes itself, right? So it kind of boils down to lowest common denominators in a lot of things. That's the disruption. What technology can't do is replicate human connection. And so the more complex things get, the more people need guidance from that resonance. And you can't create resonance with a piece of technology. You can't. It's something you deeply feel. And so advisors, to me, and professional services are really the future. And especially when it comes to growth opportunities. And growth opportunities for the human species as well, because advisors' role shouldn't just be to help them make more money or whatever. It's to help someone be more self-aware, understand their own behavioral biases, make better decisions about their money, their business, their marriages, whatever you're advising on, and to have a better life. And what you cannot get away from is that it's you and your people that are the brand. There has to be trust before that engagement happens to that degree. And you can't put out ads, you can't do rational explanations. And what I'd say to you is, if you're thinking about a content plan, don't make videos about, FBT rules or tax rules or, the 4 steps to investment planning or portfolios or investment updates or whatever. It's got to come from here, and it needs to be about the deeper emotional context behind your clients' lives and what they're experiencing. And if you're an advisor that works with them, you've got deep insight into this. Find the things that fit for you and your purpose and connect to that and use your voice for that. So you're not advertising. This isn't about, I'm making a video to encourage someone to realize I'm a great financial advisor. It's, I'm going to speak my truth and be myself so that other people go, wow, that's a real person, finally someone that I can trust. By the way, can you please talk to me about my money, my business, my whatever?
It sparked something in my mind as you were talking about this. And, on the internet, they often talk about content is king and this sort of thing, right? And but there's this other idea of currency, right? Something that's of value, that's a medium of exchange, right? And you look at currently on the internet, what would you describe as currency? What is the thing that people are happy to exchange time with, and what's considered valuable? And to me, at the moment, it's certainly a word that starts with C as well, and that's connection. So connection in and of itself becomes a currency when you can connect with people and really engage with them. That's very, very valuable. So it becomes like a currency in and of itself that you can exchange. Like it's pretty cool. So when you think about creating videos, like instead of creating it about the stock standard boring sort of superficial topics, and change that to speaking from the heart and with the purpose of connecting with the person on the other side of the screen, you create currency, and that becomes a medium of exchange, because you're when people watch your videos, that means they're paying attention. When they're paying attention, that means that you can have a certain measure of influence, and it becomes a very valuable thing. So
I think that's really interesting. So I want to kind of delve into the other side of this and talk about screw-ups on video, right? So
plenty of those.
Well, we haven't spoken about that before, but I talked about some of the first videos, and I built a training program going back, I don't even know, probably 16 years ago. And every now and then it's on our servers, right? And every now and then, different team members will find this video.
Okay.
And it's happened a couple of times now. And universally, it'll be a gathering of everyone in the team, because not everyone might have seen it at the time. And yeah, it's pretty funny. And it's the professional newsreader Baz.
Okay.
Right? And I've
got one as well. I'll send it to you. I'm actually have a green screen and I'm actually dressed like a presenter. And
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Actually, that might be a funny video to combine.
No, I don't think so.
So that, well, I didn't say funny for us. Might be funny for you.
Maybe funny for others. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, I can make a joke out of it because the reason I can give all of these insights is because I've made all the mistakes enough times. But I find that most people, when they stick a camera in front of themselves or someone else puts it in front of them, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I'm in a different world.
Deer in headlights.
No, I'm trying to do something not. And honestly, videos really, really, when you get down to it, it's really easy. But it's only easy when you can forget about the fact that you've got a camera, in front of you and you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And there's a few ways to do that. The simplest one is just keep doing it. And I think Gideon's tip is a really good one. You don't need an expensive camera. You've all got smartphones. So get a tripod, turn it on, film yourself, and do this magic thing called delete. Right? Yeah. So you can tell yourself right from the start, I'm making videos. And this is what I always tell business owners or entrepreneurs when I'm helping them build a brand. This is how we're going to start. And you're going to tell yourself that all of your videos you're deleting. So your homework is make 10 videos. And I don't know why, but people have it in their head that they're making a video and then it has to be perfect and then it has to be used. So the first way to break down that mental barrier in this sense is make 10 videos and you can tell yourself straight up you're going to delete them all.
Right. Yeah.
You're not going to use them.
Yeah. It's just
but why am I doing video then? Because it's practice. And guess how long it's going to take to practice to make 10 videos? Like how long should it take to make 10 just short videos?
10 minutes.
Yeah, like it could be a minute each,
or
right?
less.
Okay, maybe you're a bit more long-winded like me, right? So my videos like that tend to be 2 to 3 minutes, right?
Right. Yeah.
Jeremy's sitting over there chuckling away. He's always going like, make it punchier, Baz. Okay. So even then, it's like half an hour to practice. And so that's one of the key things. And by the way, whenever I do a video, I still tell myself, don't worry, I'm going to delete it.
Right. You're going to delete this one?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to delete this one. It's a bit harder to do when someone else says, well, no, I didn't invite you all the way down here. So we can delete it. But yeah, in my head, I've conditioned myself around it because you got to remove that obstacle. And I mean, in your minds, like when you make a video and you're putting it out on LinkedIn, which I've been telling you for years, hey, LinkedIn's pretty cool. So it's really cool having you there. How long do those videos take for you?
However long it takes to record them at the moment. So I literally hit record I do it on my webcam on my computer and so I just sit there, hit record, do my thing, talk for 3 minutes or whatever, hit stop, and then I'm done. My work is done and I send it through the Splashshare service and get it back the next day. It's ready to go.
So if you want to see any of Gideon's videos, you can just go to Gideon Shalwick on LinkedIn, check out his profile and go to his activity section, then you'll be able to see his videos.
There's not too many there yet, but I'll tell you an interesting story with that. My very first video, when I published it, it's similar to my other story, the other video that I talked about. I had about 500 connections, so not anything to really write home about, right? And so I recorded this video and I thought, I actually, the reason I recorded it was because I was actually testing a new feature in Splashshare, which was something we're still working on, it's not live yet, but where you can record your video straight through your webcam into the platform. So I was testing this feature, right? And I thought, what should I talk about? So okay, let's just talk about my biggest mistake that I've made on LinkedIn. Why not? It's something I'm knowledgeable about, very knowledgeable. So I recorded this video and I had absolutely no intention of uploading it to LinkedIn. And then I looked at it and go, it's kind of okay. No, what the heck? I've only got 500 subscribers or connections. And so I uploaded it. that little video went to get 27,000 views within a couple of weeks. Over 200 comments, heaps of likes. I did not see that coming, and I think it's another example of where it's like when you're recording a video, like if you're assuming that it's never going to be used, perhaps that's the time when you're going to create the best video.
It's definitely true, because you've got to get yourself out of that. Oh, who am I trying to impress?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
you're not doing it for that. And what happens when you try to, you water down your credibility, you water down your authenticity, you water down your ability to cut through and reach people. And so, yeah, by the way, that's my favorite video that you've done so far. And why? Because you are admitting a mistake that you made, and you did it in a way where I could hear in your voice that, you know, there was a little bit of pain in the lesson.
Absolutely.
But you admitted you made it, and you didn't have to come out publicly. And so to me, that's like, wow, how cool is this? And obviously other people felt the same way. You know, it's interesting because 27,000 views for 500 connections, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming. But I suspect, I mean, like you're saying, it resonated with people because that message, it was like it was spoken from a truth that was inside of me. It was not something that I, you know, even thought about speaking about beforehand. It was just like, oh, what should I talk about? Let's just talk about this because it's on my mind. And then just it came out the way that it did. It was about 4 minutes long, I think. But seriously, it was really just me talking about it without planning it out, anything like that. It just came out. So, but I think, you know, it doesn't mean that necessarily every video that you create like that is going to be a winner. You know, I think there's, and you've got to be prepared for that as well. Some videos that you're going to record maybe in a similar way might not resonate with people, and that's fine. You know, like not all your content's going to resonate. You're probably only going to get 4% of your content ever to produce most of your results, like, or at least 80-20. Like say your top 20 videos will bring in 80% of your views, and your top 4% is going to maybe bring in like the bulk of that 20%. You know, so sometimes, you know, you've got to be kind of patient with your content as well. It's not all of them are going to be winners, and that's fine. You know, but if you don't put them in, you're not going to have the winners. You know.
Yeah, I was having an online chat, and a shout out to Esther De La Cruz. So hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, Esther. And she was saying, I said, you know, I'm really digging your vibe on LinkedIn. You know, it seems like you're finding your voice. And we're having this chat, and she said, yeah, I find it really helps to let go of this idea that you know what you're creating is going to be of value. Just create it. And she said, because I can do 10 pieces of content and I've got personally no idea which one of them is going to create this massive engagement. And I think that's also true. And it's certainly true from an advice point of view. Don't go out there because you're trying to impress people, or don't go out there because you're trying to impress yourself. Do it because you've got something useful to share and you're not being selfish. Do it because you want to share your story. Now, you can do it because you are an advisor and you want to build your business and your personal brand from a strategic point of view. But when you're making the individual video, don't do it for that reason. You've got to do it for the reason of sharing something, and you've got to let go of your attachment. Will it be something that gets a huge amount of interaction or not? Honestly, it doesn't matter. And the only way you get to learn and improve is just by doing it. Yep. That's certainly been my experience. The ones that I thought, wow, this is really cool. This is going to smash it out of the park. Which, by the way, I think is 2, because I'm very critical of my own videos, which is another point I'll get to. Yeah, those 2 videos that I can think of off the top of my head, they didn't go very far or do too much. And the ones where I'm like, I don't know if I should publish this, have universally been the ones that have had the most impact. And I think that's interesting. Yeah. Have you got to the point where you're comfortable looking at yourself on video?
You know, I think there's like even today, there's always a bit of a sense of a fear of rejection. I think that's the number one stopper or killer for people who are thinking about creating their own videos. The fear of rejection, or this perceived fear that people are gonna, you know, not like you or not accept you or whatever it is, which is of course it's just BS, right? Because no one really cares what you look like that much. You're the only person who care about it the most. But even before today's recording, I go, oh, my hair is not, I've got a bad hair day, and so I've been doing video for a long time now, and there's still a little bit of a fear of rejection in there. There's no doubt that it's still there. I'm not sure if it ever goes away. There was a really cool phrase I got from someone, and I've got to find her name. It's a lady that Pat Flynn interviewed, and it was a follow-on basically, or an extension on I think what Brene Brown talks about, where you feel the fear and you do it anyway. I think it's Brene Brown, I'm not sure. Yeah. You feel the fear and you do it anyway. That was cool. It was like a cool little thing for me to hear, but it wasn't very helpful. It wasn't very practical. So this other lady that Pat Flynn interviewed, she said it like this. She said, okay, it's like you feel the fear and then you do it scared. You do it while you're fearful, which is quite revolutionary if you think about it. So it means basically that you don't have to wait for the fear to go away before you do it. You don't have to wait until you're confident before you do it.
Yeah,
you do it while you feel the fear.
I think that's really important. I've said this before. I actually ruffled a few feathers when I said that I don't know. I think that confidence is an illusion, right?
Right.
Confidence is just having done something so often that you forgot that you're afraid of it, maybe. But for me, doing a video, I've not got comfortable with it. For me, jumping up on stage and doing a keynote, even though I've done it, hundreds and hundreds of times. In fact, I'm doing one on Monday, and even me saying it now, as I said keynote, I'm starting to get nervous ahead of Monday, right? And I've done it hundreds of times. And the fear hasn't gone away. I've learnt how to do it anyway.
Yeah. He's learned how to deal with it better and how to...
So it's I will admit it's easier, and maybe you could call that confidence, because it's easier to then back up the rational part of my brain and say, hey, well, don't worry, you've done it hundreds of times and you keep getting asked back to do things, so you should be okay, right? But as when it comes to video, like at the moment, we've got a screen up here so Gideon and I can also see ourselves so that we're having this three-way chat with you in the audience. And even as I look up on the screen, I can't help but go, wow, I look crap. I just can't help it.
It's because it's not a mirror image of you. That's why.
Yeah, it's flipped the other way.
It's a true image of you. That's right.
On the flip side, I am lucky when I do listen to my voice back, it sounds better that way. Right. So I was surprised. I'm like, hey, he's actually got a decent voice.
That's actually a good little tip. Like if you want to start enjoying your voice, the sound of your voice more, get a better microphone. Like that can make a huge difference. Like a bad microphone can actually make you sound bad, even to others. So get a good microphone. I think that can make a big difference to you also accepting your voice better, because it just...
I think I might just jump in there, and if you're looking at this on YouTube, or you can jump over from wherever you're consuming this to YouTube, I've got an equipment list for simple video stuff, right? But for me, smartphone, place to start. And I think the thing that you want to use is then, it's called a Rode Smart Lav, and it's designed for phones. I do understand that a lot of phones these days don't have the microphone jack, so if you've got an iPhone, you'll need a lightning adapter for it. But the Rode Smart Lav, it is the best quality microphone for your phone. It makes the audio great. And honestly, the quality of video that you can create using that is mind-blowing.
It is.
So Gideon's pulled out his...
I just happen to have it in my bag.
Yeah, right. Okay.
This is my fancy...
I can't do that because my version of that's downstairs.
This is my fancy video production studio, so I don't even use this. This is just when I want to be fancy.
This is really cool, yes.
So
I'll have a guest videeoer. All right, what's in your...
So I've got some goodies in here. The first one is a dead possum, like we call it in Australia. So this is also a Rode mic, but it's not the lavalier one. It's
the shotgun. I've got that in my kit as well.
So that's plugged straight into your phone. That's pretty awesome. And this is just if you're outside for the wind. Pretty useful. And I don't use this one too much, but it's just maybe if I'm walking around. It's actually a...
I have Kimball Envy now.
Kimball, and I haven't used it for a while, so you get it flips up. Oh yeah, there's a button here. So what's cool about this one is it folds in half, so you can put it in your pocket and that sort of thing. And it just helps you stabilize the shot when you're walking, or it's got a little tripod mount as well that you can, or pop it on, and it gives you a stable shot. And then the phone, and that's it. Like as I'm saying, that's if I want to be fancy. I must say at my desktop at home, my home office, I've got a good microphone, like a good microphone that picks up on the sound really well. But I mean, there I still just use a little webcam. I have the fancy gear, but I don't use it. It's too much of a pain. It's a pain in the neck. So keep it real simple.
Yeah, keep it simple, and I think that would be my key message as well. If you're watching this, then there is zero reason for you not to be creating video internally with your clients via newsletter or one-to-one communication. There's certainly no reason to not be putting out something onto social media. Doing a video once a week for LinkedIn. It's a 5-minute job. Okay, add 5 minutes for the first time you have to do it, Googling how to upload it to YouTube on your phone, right? Which, by the way, is not hard. Or, in this case, upload it to Splashio as well, right? Because then you can actually get the rest of it taken care of and it captioned and all the rest of it. But even if you're just starting basic, you're not spending any dollars whatsoever, if your room acoustics are okay, your phone's fine. Pull out your phone, make a video, click end. Don't worry about cutting off the front and top bit and publish it. And that's exactly where I think most people should start. Yeah. Okay, it may not be perfect, but you know what? If I waited for my perfect video to publish, I still would not have published one yet.
Might never happen. Yeah. I like how Edward Deming talked about, with the total quality management movement. So I'm paraphrasing his principle. He had 12 principles, so I'm paraphrasing it a bit. But basically, the way I interpret it is that you have this goal of perfection that you want to reach, but you realize that you might never get there. But it doesn't mean that you don't have the goal. You still have the goal of perfection. But then the way towards it is a constant, never-ending process of continuous improvement. So with every single video that you create, there's a little bit of improvement, So by the time you've done like 10 videos, you're going to be better than your first video. By the time you get to 100, you're going to be a lot better, like orders of magnitude better than your 10th video. By the time you get to 1,000 videos, you're going to be a total pro. And you do that by this idea of continuous improvement, like small incremental improvements. You don't have to go and try and think it's going to go from pretty crappy to really awesome all of a sudden. No, it doesn't happen that way. It happens progressively over time as you aim towards perfection, realizing that you might never get there, but you aim for it in any case.
There's another really important thing, right? Don't just film the video and don't release it. Don't do that. You need to actually produce the video, release it. So as I say, there's no such thing as perfection. There's just iteration. Same message. But the best way to iterate is in public.
Yes, right. So these are the ones you don't delete now, right?
Yeah, right. So your first 10, fine. But here's the trick, right? Take your first 10 and then admit if there's some that are really crap, where you just completely stuff up or whatever, or the sound's terrible, fine. Otherwise, show them to someone else. Show them to your spouse, your work colleagues, whatever. And just say, hey, is this terrible? And if it's not terrible, publish it. Trust me, because the ones that you probably thought were borderline terrible will be the ones that are your best videos ever.
Yeah.
And you're never going to find that out until you actually do it.
Yeah.
So I've seen two methods to go forward. The one method is and I've had clients like this, and I've worked with them for 3 years and they've made 100 videos and they haven't published any of them.
Right.
And they keep going, yeah, but we made that series and we decided that it wasn't appropriate because now we've got clearer on going this way and whatever. And I'm like, and then compared to someone, it's like, you know what? I'm not exactly sure whether this is how I'm doing it or whatever, but you know what? I'm going to do it. And then over that same period of time, maybe they've done 100 videos, but they've done them in public. I can tell you now the iteration and the level of improvement between those two cases is always massively amplified by doing it in public.
Yeah.
Because you get feedback. Let's move on to the next thing, which is the fear of feedback.
Right. Yeah, which is just really the fear of failure, right? The fear of criticism, the fear of rejection. That's
what have I got to say? Will people listen?
Yeah.
Right, and is anyone going to pay attention? Will I be seen? Will it be worthwhile? And then it goes more extreme. Will people hate it?
Mm.
So then there's a fear that...
And the answer is yes, there will be sometimes people who hate your content. And that's actually really good. The way I look at it is that we're kind of like magnets. And what does a magnet do? It attracts, right? But it doesn't just attract, it also repels. So in the same way, when you can create a message that does both those things, it both attracts and repels, you're onto something. You've created a message that resonates with the right people, but then also does not resonate with the wrong people, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, why would you want to attract the wrong people in any case, right? So it's a good thing if you sometimes get those people who don't like your content. That's fine. It's just not for them.
I used to have this as a banner across my LinkedIn profile. Baz's first rule of social media: if you're doing it right, some people are not going to like you, and that's a good thing. I mean, if you put someone off because you're being real and you're being you, then that is the best possible result that you could ever have.
Yeah, it's great.
Because only people who resonate with you are going to want to do business when you're actually letting people see who you are. And then the right clients turn up, the right people want to do business with you, and the wrong people don't. And you don't have to worry about whether there's this crossover between the two. And by the way, I've helped hundreds and hundreds of businesses, and probably if we add up the businesses and the people within them, the advisors and professionals, thousands go through this journey. And universally, that's the case. The quality of clients get better. You don't lose opportunity. But occasionally you will have someone say negative stuff on your videos.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, us saying here that it's good for you to get negative sort of comments like that or feedback is fine. But I don't think it really gets any easier to deal with it. I think as a creator, content creator, because the message is us, we associate so strongly with the message that when someone criticizes your message, it feels like they're criticizing you, and that's hard to deal with as a creator, as a content creator. So, but I think that's just how it is, and some people are better at dealing with criticism than others. But I think that's actually it says a good thing about if you're sensitive about that sort of criticism, because it means you're really engaged in your own message, and that's fine. I think when you get that negative feedback and it hurts, that's normal. It's perfectly normal. I think over time you do get more used to it, but they still hurt, for sure.
I'd say the one thing that I would take out of this is that I've made some crap content, not just videos, blog posts or whatever. I've made mistakes and argued with people online in senior positions, and I'm a pretty good debater, so just because I can flip someone around doesn't mean that you should. I've kind of made just about every public mistake you could think of. And yet here I am. And what I would say is, I don't know, there's this irrational fear that if you make something and put it out into the world, that something terrible could go wrong, but there isn't any actual risk. Okay, there's risk that someone might say something negative. That's not going to mean that you can't engage with other people. There's risk that you may make something that doesn't really engage people. So what? It doesn't destroy anything. It actually is what forms the basis for your journey of being a real professional in a modern world who has a voice. That's how I would say it.
I mean, there is the risk of getting deplatformed, right? So like we've seen with some folks on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, with some, well, depends on your viewpoint, but the platforms would deplatform these people because they view their messages as too extreme. But I mean, even if something like that happens, you get a lot of attention that way. I wouldn't recommend it.
No, I'm gonna clarify and say for this audience that's watching, right? So we've got people who are professional, typically accountants,
Right.
financial advisors. So
Right.
yeah, you can take my there's minimal risk of you talking about the emotional context that you find with your clients. Stay away from, this is my advice, unless you want to be this person, then sure, follow my grandmother's advice. Stay away from talking about politics and religion. Don't offend people. Don't criticize people. Talk about real issues, but the ones, and this is what I say, if it came from here, and I don't mean from here you thinking it's here, but it's actually you being pissed off and frustrated, then the chance of you being deplatformed or doing anything's tiny, because you're not going to talk about that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a good point there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because then we're into the whole censorship issue for what's happening in social media at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bringing it up as sort of an extreme, laughable sort of an example, because it's extremely unlikely that, I mean, that sort of thing doesn't, it only really happens if there's some, you've got to be pretty extreme.
Don't be extreme, don't be silly.
Yeah.
Speak from here and
Yeah.
remember to actually, as I always say, I really believe the philosophy of there's only fear or love. Fear or love. Right. So if you're acting out of fear, then that's when you might be, pressuring other people and saying things and that's fear. If you're acting out of love, then you're gonna talk about issues, not people. You're not gonna judge. You're talking out of love. So make that the basis. Speak from here. And again, if you're an advisor, then really all you should be doing is delving into the things that you find you really wish you could share with more people that you've learnt as lessons with your clients. And I don't mean the technical stuff, I mean the behavioural stuff. And if you do that, you're on really, really, in my opinion, safe ground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, I think, it's, you got to do something pretty extreme to get the platform. But the reason I bring it up is because it's kind of like, if there's anything that could happen, that's the worst thing that could happen, and it's extremely.
Okay, you got an account deleted.
Extremely unlikely. If you keep it classy, like if you follow Baz's grandmother's rules, absolutely. This the people who get in trouble. So this has happened to someone close to me. So what happened was, they didn't get deplatformed, but what happened was, they bought some views to their channel on YouTube, and to their credit, they thought that these were real views. It was sold to them as real views that they were buying, to get more of an audience. It turned out that these views were actually fake views, from some sort of third party server sitting in, I don't know, who knows where. And as a result of that, YouTube picked up on that, and then the account got terminated. So that's a fairly extreme case. So, but I think, if you play by the rules of the platforms, there's absolutely no reason for you to worry about getting your account removed or being deplatformed, anything like that. It's like the risk there is extremely low if you play by the rules. Yeah.
So I think we can kind of cover off on that one. Just don't be silly, and if you're a professional, then you can take my speak from the heart with still. That doesn't mean just because you're speaking from the heart and you're being authentically vulnerable that you're also not being professional. So you can kind of marry those two concepts together and you'll be fine.
Yeah, just stay classy.
So, biggest mistake you've ever made in your journey of creating a personal brand? And I extended it. I didn't just kind of narrow it down to video. We've mainly been talking about video. So what's the biggest mistake you've made on that pathway?
I actually moved away from personal branding as the singular profit or business model for my business. So the way I look at personal branding now is that it's complementary to my business model. It's not the business model. So what I used to have was I built a profile around me, like in my knowledge, right? So I used to teach people about video marketing. That was my main thing. My main income came from creating products, launching information products about that topic. It was me teaching. So the whole business was built around me and my knowledge, right? And it was a great business model. It was leverageable, very profitable, but it was a bit vulnerable. I put it that way. It's quite vulnerable because if something would happen to me, then what happens to the rest of the business? The business would just die overnight. So that, I guess, would be a mistake, I guess, that I came to realize that I was making. And so then I shifted gears. And I shifted gears away from a personal brand being the main thing to creating business models that could run independently of me, but then still being able to have a personal brand that complements that business. So a good way of looking at it is, say, for example, Tesla and Elon Musk. I mean, there's the company brand, Tesla, and then you've got the product brands as well with the different cars, right? I can't remember all the Model 3 or whatever. I can't even know. I don't even know what it's called. But anyway,
close enough.
There's you've got the company brand, you've got the product brand, but then you've also got the personal brand there. And so when you look at it, if something happens to Elon right now, Tesla will still keep going. Look at what with Apple, right? Apple was the company brand. There was iMac and MacBook Pro, whatever was the product brands, and then there was Steve Jobs, right? So Steve Jobs disappeared, and then Apple still continued. So I think if you can think about your building your personal brand in a way that it can complement and leverage and extend everything else that you're doing in your business, so that if something does happen to you and you can't be that person anymore, the face of the business, so to speak, that the business can still continue without you. I think that's something. I'm not sure if that's something you guys cover much, but it's I think that's something that's been very useful for me. And I made that shift about 9 years ago now, and I haven't looked back. So
we typically work with, as I said, professional services firms, and I think the key is I use the analogy of the champagne glass fountain, right? So if you're building your brand, it's based on all of the people. So, I mean, I think professional services firms are a little different to technology companies, for example. So your brand is being complementary to the technology company. Whereas in your professional services firm, all of your people are your brand. And I think part of how you de-risk having that one thing is, yes, okay, if you're the leader of the business, if you're being a modern, like up-to-date leader, you should be having a brand. And when I say brand, I don't actually like the term brand because that comes from, like, it's a derivative from the old, ownership. What I actually mean is to have a profile and a presence in the world where people can get a sense of who you are. And in today's day and age, that dramatically affects your referability rate. So I read an article the other day about are referrals dead as a business source? And I'm like, no, it's just that businesses haven't adapted. Because when you get a referral these days, they're Googling you, they're looking you up on LinkedIn, and if they're not finding enough there, then their fee levels are going up and they're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the referrals aren't being successful. That doesn't mean they're not happening. So you have to do that. And so that's the champagne glass at the top. But if you're in a services firm, then you also need to be encouraging your team to be sharing their stories and to be part of that. And not just your team, your clients. So it becomes your tribe, as the brand for which you've got people that represent. And there's some little bit different in the nuances. But I'm gonna take that question and say the biggest lesson mistake for me has been listening to gurus. right? So the big thing, you've got this wisdom and knowledge, and so how do you sell stuff online? And whenever you ask the wrong question, you always get the wrong answer. So sell stuff for starters. Well, if you're in a relationship business, do you want to sell like some random person your service? Probably not. Do you want to resonate with exactly the right person who should fit with you and what you do? Yes, it's a very different thing. And so I've used the events with a call to action at the end. So selling from stage, I've used webinars, I've done lead magnets and landing pages and all of the calls to action that you could possibly imagine. And to be honest, all of that pales into insignificance with just going, you know what, let's just do a video and I'm going to give it away for free and I'm not going to make any call to action whatsoever. And I'm just going to speak from here and do it for the right reasons. And since doing that, people just turn up. People turn up and say, can I please do business with you? Can you please help me? Can we please have? And I think that's the biggest lesson for me. And so I'm kind of drawing a line in the sand. And I'm not saying I won't do some webinars and, you know, promote some certain things in the future. But by and large, finding my voice and giving it away for free. So the longer form stuff like this and the deeper webinars and stuff I used to charge for or have an opt-in or something. Well, now I'm just making them publicly available. Yeah. And I wish I'd done that a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's a relationship building tool or a connection building tool, isn't it, really, when you think about it? It just naturally builds connection and affinity with you when, I mean, if you guys are still watching, it's been, an hour and a half now? Yeah. I mean, we've been chatting to you for an hour and a half and we've been inside your head, you know, for that long. That's a long time to keep somebody's attention. And that means a lot, you know. Like I said, connection and attention is like a currency. It has value, has a lot of value.
So we're going to wrap it up now. Number one tip for getting started more effectively than we did in getting your message out there. What would you just say is your number one wrap it up?
I think don't let anything get in your way of getting your message out there. Find ways to remove obstacles. Anything at all that gets in the way, whether it's technology, whether it's software, whether it's your own feelings or view of yourself, find a way to eliminate those obstacles as quickly as possible and to get your message out there. And so, you know, like Baz was saying, just use your phone. Don't think you need a fancy camera. When it comes to editing, don't think you need a fancy computer or fancy software to
or that
to
you
make it
even
happen.
need to edit.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even need to edit, right? So don't let that put you back. When it comes to yourself and the way you view yourself, don't let fear hold you back. Just do it anyway and do it as you are feeling the fear. That's the key. You know, over time you'll just smash it. You'll do really well.
I think that was great, and so I'm going to ask my last question then. And it kind of occurred to me because what I see a lot of people doing now is launching podcasts, right? So podcasts are a big thing. Look, I definitely think podcasts are engaging and can be great, right? So I'm a big fan. But what would you say to someone if you're starting out? Would you recommend starting with podcast or starting with video?
I don't actually know. And the reason I say that is because I don't know who you are and what your true gifts and talents are. So I think if you're attracted to video, then do video. If you're more attracted to audio, then do podcasts.
I think getting started is the key thing. I'm going to say this to you, having helped people do both. I think video is the simplest because literally making a 2-minute video on your phone for something that you just took notice of in a client meeting that you say over and over, right? That is so easy. It's so simple. And not only that, you having to confront putting yourself out there visually as well as in audio form will actually help you grow faster. So that's my tip. It's easier conceptually to hide behind, and when I say podcast, I'm talking about no video at all. So This here, we will actually upload as a podcast.
Right.
But at the time we're doing it, we haven't done that yet. So I figure I'm going for long form content now. So that means that, every week to 2 weeks we're doing an, 90-minute, really getting in deep with someone like we did today. And why? Because I think, to me, I find that really engaging. So why not do it in the pathway that fits for that podcast? Why do it video first? Well, because it's very easy to go from video to audio.
Right.
But if you just capture audio, you can't go to video. So that would be my tip for you guys. I think, number one, follow Gideon's advice of, if you're going to do one and not the other, then do that one. But secondly, video is the simplest. It really, really is. It's also the most effective because you have to confront yourself in order to do it. Smartphone, simple video. And if you want to really make it look professional and engaging, don't forget to go to splashio.com/Baz, because you'll get a free trial there. And it's really just going to make it so easy. Upload it from your phone to Splashio, and you've got something you can put up on LinkedIn. Try it, experience it, and actually start the process of being a modern professional with a voice and being themselves and doing business, in the modern world. So, look, Gideon, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. And if you've got any questions, comments, or things you'd like to hear from, I'm happy to have Gideon back. Could you please drop them in the comments below, and would love to hear from you. And as always, if you're checking this out on YouTube, then make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and wherever you're listening to it. So perhaps we've already got this up on a podcast, and make sure you subscribe there. Thanks very much, and we look forward to inventing the future of advice together. Cheers.